Hello and welcome to my weekly Greek cast through the Bible in 10 years. I do two versions. I do a podcast version that is on my Patreon site, and then for the video version, I look at interlinearbible.com or biblehub.com/interlinear and follow the Greek text. And then often I'll do one of the verses in a Monday Greek video just on that verse. Well, we're in Luke 16. We had done the parable of the lost son in Luke 15 several weeks ago, and then it was Passion Week, and so we did Luke 19, I believe it was, with the triumphal entry for Palm Sunday, and then we did Luke 24 last week with the resurrection. Now we're going to go back and fill in some gaps, and so we are in Luke 16, verse 1. So I'm just going to do the first, I think it's 15 verses, the parable of the unjust steward or the unrighteous steward. This is a peculiar parable. In fact, I think of all the parables in the Gospels, this is the most puzzling of them all, I think, to me. I think I have some sense of what it means, but it is let's just say it's a strange parable to me, and I think to an awful lot of people. Let's go ahead and dig in, shall we? And he was saying, that is, Jesus was saying also to his followers, to his disciples, quote, capital letter in Greek usually means a quote. Not all editions of the Greek do it, but Interlinear does here. So he was saying also to his followers, a certain person, in this case it's a man, a certain man was rich, who he was having a manager. He had an oikonomos. He had an economist, as it were, an oikonomos. He had a manager working for him, and this man was accused. It was accused to him as wasting the possessions of him. So he's got a manager who it turns out this guy has been embezzling or wasting at least his stuff, and the parable doesn't deny that that's true. It is the assumption of this story that the man was, in fact, wasting, scattering, I think is somewhat related to the word here. He was wasting this guy's possessions. A couple of people have come to mind, one I know and one, and some people I've heard of, some of the individuals in Russia who were supposed to be spending money on the training of troops who maybe weren't exactly. I think there are some of the generals of Putin in trouble for not using the money wisely. Of course, this seems to be to the advantage of the Ukrainians who have done, horrible the things that the Russians have done to them, without question. But they've done, to most of the world, surprisingly well. And some of it's because of the graft, it would seem, in the Russian military. There were apparently generals and others who were scattering the money that was given to them to train the military. I also have a friend who used to work for a wealthy individual, and I won't go into more specifics, but there was nothing unethical about what he did, but from my perspective, he wasted an awful lot of money of the wealthy individual. So this happens from time to time, and it's not a good thing. And in this case, the story assumes that this manager has been wasting his father, the rich person's money. He's at least been wasting it, and possibly embezzling. That's a possibility here. Verse 2, and the owner, the rich person, having called him in, he said to him, "What is this I hear about you? Give the account, repay an account of your economy, of your stewardship, of your economia. Give me an account of what you've been doing, for you are not able still to be my manager. You're not able to manage any longer." Verse 3, then he said, the manager said to himself, "What am I going to do? Because my master is taking away the management position, from me. I'm not strong enough to dig. I'm not able to dig. What am I going to do for a living? This is my life, and I'm ashamed to beg. I'm not going to do that. So what am I going to do? Verse 4, I know what I will do, so that whenever I should be removed from the management, they might receive me into their homes. So he's going to do something to make friends, so that after he loses his position, there will be individuals who will take care of him, who will have his back. Verse 5, and having called each one of the debtors of his master, of his Lord. So he's gone to the people that his master owns, or the rich person he's worked for. He calls in the debtors of those the people who his master owes money. No, the people who owe his master money. Sorry, forgive me. He calls each one of the debtors, and he was saying to the first one, "How much do you owe my master? How much do you owe my Lord?" Verse 6, and he said, 100 baths of oil, 100 containers of oil. And he said to him, okay, take your bill, take the things that are written, and having sat down quickly, write 50. So he's going to give him half off. I'm going to mark off half of what you owe my master. And now he's got a friend, right? He's got a friend. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I've done something good for you. Remember me when I don't have a job anymore. And the word master is interesting here. He can't exactly be a slave in any kind of a conventional sense, because then he wouldn't be free to go work for somebody else. It would seem. It seems like, although it does say master, but it doesn't say he's a servant. It's a kind of a strange, something more than just a job, and something less than being owned by the master, it would seem. Verse 7, then he said to a different one, how much do you owe? And he said, 100 cores of wheat. These are ancient measurements. He says to him, take that which is written, your bill, take your bill, and write 80. So he's given him a discount, a 20% discount. Verse 8, and the master praised the manager for his unrighteousness, because he acted shrewdly. Now there's the strange thing here. The rich man doesn't kill him. The rich man doesn't throw him into jail. The rich man doesn't have him beaten. The rich man kind of smiles and says, "You're not stupid." This is very interesting, because the thing that's always puzzling about this parable is that it almost seems to reward or support unrighteous behavior. It almost seems to pat him on the back. But I don't think that we should see the rich man in this story as good either. And I think that's an important thing to realize about Luke's perspective on wealth. Luke does not align the wealthy with the good. And so Luke is not going to see, and certainly Jesus didn't align the wealthy with the good by and large. That's certainly not the impression we get from the Gospels. And so we shouldn't assume, we should, in fact, we might assume, there's an old Arab proverb, every rich person is either a thief or the son of a thief. We probably should assume that from the standpoint of Luke and Jesus, this rich man isn't good either. That this is a parable about two people who are entirely outside of Israel. They are outside of the kingdom of God. They are outside of the church, we might say today. So we should not think, well, the rich man, why is he reward? We should not think that the point of the parable is to endorse the rich man either. But the rich man recognizes that this guy has been shrewd. And no doubt the rich man has been shrewd like that as well. In fact, this story might assume that the rich man has also been unjust in order to have that much money. So we have an unjust person smiling at another unjust person. I'm tempted to give a story that reminds me of this, where a person, a political figure that I don't particularly consider to be just, commended another person that I consider to be very unjust for being smart. I don't take either of those evaluations as being the perspective of God necessarily. I take it rather as one shrewd person smiling at the shrewdness of another person, one snake admiring another snake. Maybe that's the way we should understand this story. But he goes on, he says, "For the sons of this age are more shrewd than the sons of light in their own generation." So there does seem to be some indication that there should be some shrewdness with regard to money for those who are in the kingdom. And you have to wonder if this is a nudge, nudge, wink, wink to Theophilus as well, because Theophilus surely had money. Is Luke, in a sense, winking at Theophilus and saying, you should be shrewd in giving your resources to others and to those who have need? I mean, that seems to me a quite possible inference of this story. Verse 9, "And I say to you, I myself say to you, make friends for yourselves from the wealth of unrighteousness, so that when it should fail, they might receive you into eternal dwellings." Interesting, very puzzling. Make friends using the wealth of unrighteousness. Is this, again, a hint to Theophilus? Use the wealth that you've been given to make friends for you, so that when the mammon of unrighteousness fails, these friends might welcome you into eternal dwellings. We're going to have the parable of the rich man and Lazarus a little bit later on in this chapter. I'm going to wait till next week to do it. But you can see how this would relate to that. The rich man did not make friends with Lazarus. And then when Lazarus was someone who might have welcomed him into eternal dwellings, the rich man had no recourse or no access to Lazarus. Not that Lazarus can get people into heaven, but this is the connotation of this story. Those people on earth who find themselves with resources should make friends with, I think by inference, the poor, those who need, those who are knocked off track. Use your resources that God has given you to make eternal friends that may then welcome you into eternal dwellings. Verse 10, "The one who's faithful with very little also will be faithful with much. And the one who is unrighteous with little will be unrighteous with much." Again, we find ourselves in different positions in life. There are some Christians who everything they touch turns to gold. They just have a business sense to them. If you took all their money away, in 5 years they'd have it all back, because they have a sense of the way that the world works. And I'm not saying that they do anything unethical or anything like that. They're just people who know how to use the world. And so if you have a little or if you have much, be faithful with it. And faithfulness, again, for Luke and Jesus, is to help those who are in need. Verse 11, "Therefore, if you have not been faithful with unrighteous wealth, who will entrust you with true riches?" Again, I have to think that this is a hint to Theophilus. "And if you should not be faithful with that which belongs to another, who will give to you your own things?" Verse 13, "No servant is able to serve two masters." Here's this famous saying of Jesus, "For either he will hate the one and will love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and he will despise the other. Are you not able to see that you cannot serve God and mammon?" You cannot serve God and the material things of the world. Okay, let me see. Do I want to go any further? I think I'm going to stop there with verse 13, and we will finish next week.